Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 461. This is your guide to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, ready to watch some Nickelodeon slime time for my Super Bowl party.
The superb owl, the
No,
game.
I'm not doing that. That joke is old as the sky.
But it's my favorite. I'm not giving up on it. I'm not giving up.
Nope.
Never surrender. No, that's the one sporting event I watch every year. I love it because of commercials. I mean, big ones we're expecting to see is Deadpool and. That's all that's coming out next year that anybody cares about. Deadpool and Deadpool. Maybe they'll show it twice.
Deadpool and Deadpool. Yeah, probably lots of Disney sequels, and we'll talk about that in the news.
Oh, yes.
We get there.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, so the Dream Team's back together, folks. Charlie and I will be talking about our dear pal, Madam Webb. We're going to do a retrospective on her comic history in a Thunderdome, so stay tuned for that. But before we get deeper into the world of nerd, we got to thank some very special people that make all this possible.
That's what I do. I like to give homage or homage, if you prefer, to the fine folks over on our Patreon Super Squad. If you visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, you can check out our wares for 1 week for free and enjoy the programs that we put out. Todd and I do a great show about comics called Spinnerack. I have a program where I team up with a guest to talk about a classic season of a classic series and have a good time. There's a number of folks who we owe our life's blood to, who make it possible for us. On the Friends with Benefits level, John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters cosplay, Brendan Myers, Corey in HD, and friend of the show, Matthew Keel. On the BFF level, Sean Stella and Henry Nias, the Nias family, and my friend Missy Merchant. We are grateful for you. Again, patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Check us out for 7 days. And then if you like what you hear, stick around because we would love to have you. Oh,
give it a week. You'll take off the weight, as they say.
Oh, right. What's the weight? The weight of what it costs to belong to it. No, that'll be putting on
waiting for all our awesome content before it goes on our stream.
Tom Petty said the waiting is the hardest part. Oh, July of 1949. Giving us by what I feel like is an unknown publisher. Or if I squint real hard, is that Mickey Mouse ears I see in the upper left-hand corner? I can't tell.
Oh, yes.
I don't know, but this was which you're seeing if you're watching us on YouTube is or on our Patreon stream is Crack Comics with Captain Triumph, who I almost thought said Captain Trump. I was a little scared for a moment there. Meets Mr. Pointer, Finger of Fear. Now let me set the scene. The words that I just read to you are literally in a 24 by 36 framed wooden frame. So, sets the stage like he just walked in and those words were written on the wall. He is a blonde gentleman in a very plain red tee, short sleeve tee, white slacks that are blouse at the side, kind of like a imperial officer with what do they call those, Todd? Where they're bumped out like that?
Kind of like pantaloons.
Kind
of like the riding pants.
Riding breeches, right, exactly. With the big belt, and then a pair of brown seamless officer boots. Again, this is kind of a Star Wars outfit, to be honest with you, because it's got the pants and it's got the boots and a giant belt, and those are two of the three elements that you've got to have a successful, at least Rebel Alliance cosplay. And he's standing in front of a raven-haired, green dress-wearing lady who is bent aghast in a scared position. There is, in shadow, a fingered glove with an index finger pointing at his crotch. Okay. And that's all we got. So, Todd, I would now, before we get on to obviously part 2 of this, let me simply ask you, as a consumer, you are you're older than my old man. If this was July of 49, because he was born September 49.
I'm not.
But. Yes, but the hypothetical individual is walking into his local drugstore and on the spinner rack sees this. Your other choices would be Superman, Batman, or Archie Comics. I don't know. Do you pick this, and why, or why not?
Well, I think the best part about this is I was looking at the first couple pages, and it gives you kind of like the summary of who this dude is. It says, when Lance Gallant touches the T-shaped birthmark on his left wrist, the mighty spirit of his dead twin brother Michael emerges with him to form the invincible Captain Triumph.
The twin he ate in the womb. I absorbed your power.
I mean, the only thing I could think of it's close enough is Firestorm, where it was Ronnie Raymond and Professor came together to form Firestorm, Firestorm, sorry. And this is very similar, but I did not expect the fact that his dead twin brother Michael would be helping him to become Captain Triumph. I don't know what his power set is. They don't go into anything, but it just says that, and they show his little
power set must be those abs. Oh my god! But anyway, Todd, as you've illustrated here, the cover in the story in the origin that you described is not nearly what we're really packing here. It's what we found as an advertisement. You said this wasn't on the back cover, but it was within the comic.
Even better, Charlie. I can tell you, as I was looking through the pages of this comic, not only is there one ad for fireworks, there were two ads for fireworks. One at the beginning, one at the end. So we basically, the big thing I like about these old comics is the ads. And so this had a full page ad for fireworks by the Rich Brothers. And it has the All-American assortment or the no noise assortment, which is very weird for fireworks.
And the no noise assortment is a lot bigger if you're looking at these black and white photos. Now, again, with the pub date of July, the publication date in the comic is usually 3 months later than the month when it's released. In the month the pub date is more likely when it's to be withdrawn. So this would have been in March or April or May of 49. So getting kids all fired up and excited. So I mean, Todd, what do we got going on? There's a lot going on, even just in the description.
I mean, it's for $12.05. You could get yourself a package of 524 packages or over 550 pieces of firecrackers, Zebra brand firecrackers, electric cannons, comets, whistling bombs, musical fountains,
Whisker Biscuit, and all that, like from Joe Dirt,
sparklers, a flower pot, aerial bombs, snakes. That would get you could get that for $4.95.
I was going to say,
long display.
You shot high with the 1205. But what is the lawn display no noise? So if I can squint here, best lawn display assortments ever assembled by anyone. Loads of exciting, colorful fireworks, noiseless for your 4th of July, large pinwheels, red and green fire cones. That's what I thought I saw, cones. Let's see, golden jewel, silver cascade, again, flower pots, which I guess are noiseless, silver wheels, skyrockets, comets, handle lawn fountains, snakes and torches, etc., etc. Now, this is going to increase your spend by an entire $1, which in 1949 was probably like $300, but just kidding.
It's weird. It's weird. Why is it has a retail value of $12.15, which is only 10 cents more than the other assortment, but it's $1 more on sale.
That's
so
not
very
really
strange.
blowing me away. But Todd,
math.
I'll tell you exactly why, and this is mentioned in caps at the end of each one of these. They do come without charge with punk. P-U-N-K. Free punk. Gotta have it.
I don't know what it means. Free punk. Someone tell us. I'll have to look it up to see if that was a common phrase at the time. But
I always love in these old mail away ads the menagerie that you have to do. So order shipped by express only. No. Oh no! Does it say no COD? I don't know. I'm really
no cash on delivery.
Yeah, exactly. Money order or check. I didn't know they had checks back then.
What? Of course they had checks.
I didn't know where checks were invented. I mean, I always love this. It's Rich Brothers Fireworks Department Company, Department 40, Box 510. Like, you can imagine this huge post office that's 1,000 miles tall, but it's Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So, Todd, a little bit further west of where you're at, is apparently the land of the fireworks. Maybe they use an assortment like this to make Mount Rushmore, That's what they needed to dynamite out all places?
Potentially,
you think
yeah.
so?
So I assume the company exploded in a fireworks explosion. That's the only way it could have ended. So,
Right,
folks,
exactly.
sorry. I'm guessing these deals are, were available while supplies lasted.
Yes, and the supplies went up in smoke. But anyway, someone who I know for a fact who again we are celebrating this episode, who probably worked at this company. Maybe she was responsible for their downfall. I am talking about our senior news correspondent, the Jane of all trades, at 124 years young. Madam Webb is down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine with all of the latest scoops for us. Let's check it out.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Yes, it's a celebration of Madam Webb for the next couple of weeks, and we want to say thank you, Madam Webb. We know this is the lunar New Year's today is a celebration. It's the year of the dragon, not the year of the spider. But you know what? We hold you in our hearts, and we can only imagine every time we see a spider, we think of you, the web, and all the gross things that you're eating. So, with
Everything that comes with it.
exactly. So we kick off the news this week with a trailer because we're going to get a lot of trailers for the Super Bowl this week. A lot of them have already launched, and one of those trailers is A Quiet Place Day One. So this is all about the Quiet Place franchise, this would be the third movie, and this is essentially Emergence Day, or kind of like, oh, my cat just jumped behind me.
I was going to say, and I actually watched her walk behind your head through the screen of your headrest. It was pretty good. I didn't want to say anything, but then she popped out.
I was gonna say I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
But and that has there's actually a cat in the video or the trailer
Right.
too, so you can see it. But essentially, this is how it all came to be. And I really didn't know. I haven't seen the second one. I need to watch the second one. I didn't know how the creatures arrived, but apparently they came from outer space in meteorites.
Yeah, and it was because April and I were watching this morning, and I think because we've seen both the films, I think and they're both available on Paramount Plus, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they were in the past. And I think she remarked, "Well, we don't even really know where the things came from." And yeah, they just straight up meteorites. They fell out of the sky. One would assume they were, or we'll discover they were in some sort of conveyance, some ship or whatever. And then they're going to town on New York City, and so this is all seen through the eyes of a young black woman, if I'm not mistaken. Did we get anybody more famous in this trailer? Because I didn't necessarily recognize her.
Lupita Nyong'o's the lead. Joseph Quinn, Alex Wolff, and then Demon Hunshu is also in this. He's the lead, I would say.
And he was because I saw a headline on Screenrant or something that said, Damon Hanshu's appearance in this creates a mild canonical flap from the second film, because he was the main character in the second film.
Yeah.
Which
well,
and this
was
was
his origin story.
Yeah,
then.
Because they said, it was day 476. Because that's how the trailer starts out. It's day 476, and you see, John Krasinski and his family around the table having dinner, and then they flash forward a few days, and like 5 or 6 days, and it portrays, here's day number 483 or something, and they show clips from the second film, and then they show the ticker all the way back to day one. So it's been 18 months that this has been going on ish, without me having to do the scary math, 365 days in a year. So it's a little bit more than that. So yeah, lots of explosion. They had one of my favorite cliches at the end of it. Anytime you have a natural disaster that happens in New York, you got to blow up all the bridges that lead out in Manhattan. Yep. So we got one of those, a nice media. I don't know which bridge it was, but one of the borough bridges that leads off the island. You see go up in a plume of flame. So yeah, big monster movie to kick off the what this is coming out at the end. Is at the end of April, so it's not going to factor into our contest, Todd.
It is June 28th, so this will be
very good. Yeah,
of summer films.
So we'll have to do our research to see if it fits the bill in being in our top 10.
Yeah, and John Krasinski's not directing this one, but he helped. He's like in charge of this franchise now, essentially. He's executive producing it. And the funny part about this is obviously the creatures like noise to track them down. Being in New York is like the loudest place in the world, so
absolutely.
I don't think this is going to end well. And quite honestly, I'd be surprised how anybody figures out that they like noise, because it's New York.
Yeah, it's just nothing but
I'm moving here.
Guys, I'm crossing this. Monsters.
Hey, have some za. Hey, monster, you want to ride in my cab? I'll give you some za.
What you got to do? Gabagoo. You want some gabagoo? Oh, they're not over in Jersey. Excuse me. They have to go to
So
Jersey
these are
and
really
talk to
bad New
Sopranos.
York impressions.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, check this
Oh my
out. I hope
goodness.
it's good. I'm not normally a fan of prequels, but this one looks like it should be decent because it's probably a self-contained story with focused
Right.
on a couple of people. So that may work.
Right, and you're not jamming down like, and this is how John Krasinski got his special thing or whatever. This is how blah blah blah. It's just it looks like the only character of note would be Damon Hanchu's character, and I
Sure.
guess I'd have to watch the second one again to really even. I don't remember much of the story other than it picks up almost immediately after the end of the first film, and you're following Emily Blunt and the newborn and the kids, and they wander off and find another settlement where I think Guy Pearce is there or something. I can't remember. I really do have to watch it again.
I was going to
not
say I
have
need
any
to watch the
recollection.
second one. I never did. Yeah, I'll probably watch it before the prequel comes out because if I get my
Right.
movie pass again, not the
Yeah.
movie pass, but the pass I go see movies with here for the summer because I can see movies cheap.
Right. Ours went up by a couple of bucks, but still is for the two of us, it's $50 a month. Which if you go see 4.5 movies between the two of us, it's paid for. You know what I mean?
turned mine off essentially, I think in October because I'm like, there are hardly any movies coming, and quite honestly,
Yeah, we
I would
probably should.
not get my fill.
We should probably do the same, maybe even after the movie we'll see next week. Because but I mean, we still, we'll still go see something stupid. Like went and saw The Beekeeper, and we had fun seeing it because it was so bad. But I mean, it's something we enjoy doing together. So if you were going by yourself, which is what you do, and you're like, wow, this is a huge waste of my time. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
Exactly. Yeah, $20 a month for that service is not a bad deal to see like 3 or 4 movies a month.
Exactly correct. All right, well, moving on. There's a new big screen opportunity to do what? Come on, don't make me spoon feed it to you, Todd. Get to the chopper with the Predator, folks. Meow, meow, meow. Did I jump ahead? I'm sorry. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. You still there? You can't hear me?
Keep going. I can hear you.
Did I mute myself?
You're referencing another podcast on our podcast. Please stop.
There's a podcast called Get to the Chopper. I've never heard of it. I did?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Oh.
No, I thought it was something from
yeah.
Daily Planet. Because you normally refer to that podcast 2 or 3 times. Okay, so I wasn't sure. That could have been one of the catchphrases I missed on there, one of the podcasts you sign up for.
I wouldn't see how that would catch as a catchphrase, because how do you use it?
I don't know. They use a lot of catchphrases that make no
Yeah.
sense unless you're like, yeah. So,
Right.
yes, we're
Yes, it
getting
wouldn't.
a new entry in the Predator series. Essentially, it's a series that has had ups and downs, but the last entry was Prey, which essentially was the first Predator sighting on Earth, and it was amazing. Had a lead character, Native American, and Dan Trachtenberg, who's also done the monster movie from New York. There was the sequel with John Goodman, where they were in the
Cloverfield.
He did Cloverfield Lane. No.
Oh, okay.
He did Cloverfield Lane.
The first one was JJ, wasn't it? Or it was he produced it or something?
No, it was part of his. He produced it, but it was not him. But
there you go.
Dan Trachtenberg did Prey, and now he's doing this. So he is a huge fan of certain franchises. He's loved The Predator, and he did a great job. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And this movie, essentially, he'll be producing it, and it's going to be set in colonial. So sorry, no, that's wrong. That's the first one. This one, the sequel is going to be called Badlands, which tells me this is probably going to be a Western, like almost set in like the West in the like Oklahoma, North Dakota area.
You see, what works about this, and it even really applies to what we were talking about a moment ago, as far as a prequel that works, is simply the setting is the focus, not all the member berries. Like, hey, do you remember this guy? Do you remember that this thing is going to happen? And do you remember that this is how Boba Fett did this thing and that thing? But that's where prequels fail, right? Like the Star Wars prequels. It was like, oh, do you remember how Darth Vader was this angsty little teenager, or how Darth Vader became a bad guy? Well, this is why. Well, this is simply like, hey, the Predators are an ancient alien species of hunters, and they've always come and visited, going back to, because Prey was set in the 11th or 12th century, I think, in in North
Very early.
America.
Well, it was not wasn't
Yeah.
that early because we had like French for trappers, so it
Oh,
probably
so
like
like
1700.
1600s. Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, if this is set in maybe this is set during the Dust Bowl or something. You know what I mean? I mean, you never know. You know. So
Yeah, a
yeah,
Wild West makes a lot
1920s.
of sense. Like just yeah, like well, I think of like Badlands. I think of like Western. So this is
Yeah,
going to be
right.
like
So older.
tr- you
So
know
yes,
late
1920,
like
18,
18 like
1850s. Yeah,
1800s. Yeah, prior to a lot of
right.
technology, but you've got guns most likely.
Yeah, right.
Maybe trains. So predators on a train. Anyone? There we go.
Oh, snakes on a plane, predators on a train.
Yeah. So and
Yes, take our
I think we're
ideas.
not. I mean. And it's probably going to be a different predator this time because they come back, and so it's not like you're going to have like, "Oh, you killed my brother predator. I'm going to kill you."
Yeah, right.
I want
This time,
vengeance for my predator
this
brother. Yeah.
this time I'm out for some predator revenge. Oh, so yeah, so this is but Prey, as you had mentioned, was a Hulu original, which is the only place that we found it. Did that come out during COVID, and that's why it wasn't in theaters, or was it just not meant to be in theaters?
No,
I don't really
that was still
recall.
at the time when they were like, "Oh, everything's going to be streaming now. It's going to make get so many people into the door." And then they realized
Yeah, right,
because they could have probably put that movie out in the theater, but at that point, I think it
right.
was because it was probably part of the deal that they didn't
Yeah,
have
the
deal for
deal.
theatrical release with all of the
Oh, gotcha.
actors. So that's
Yep,
you got to have those deals in place. So this time, it's most likely it's going to be a film and hopefully gets a wide release and makes
right.
Disney some money so they can stop making really bad sequels.
Oh, wow, what a beautiful segue. But anyway, before we do that segue, I'm imagining if this is being announced in 2024, it'll go into production. We'll see it in 26, much like we are with
Yeah.
another release that I'm sure we'll talk about. Moving into talking about the folks over at Disney trying to find their ass with two hands, so to speak, and find a way to stop, bleeding from the face or other parts of the body, like they did in 2023, because Disney was dying. Did
Didn't
they
have a
have any?
billion-dollar movie. That was the first year they had not had a
Yeah,
billion-dollar movie in,
but
like, I
they didn't really have. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Anything that you would generally consider a Disney level success in 2023?
no,
Did
Guardians of the
something do
Galaxy would
well?
be the only
Yeah,
Guardians of
yeah,
the
yeah,
Galaxy is the
yeah.
only movie I would say that did really well, but even
Uh-huh.
based on that, it's still not up to the it didn't make $1 billion. So,
Yeah, yeah, even yeah, global. Oh, meaning globally, I assume you mean. So it
correct, globally.
stayed under a billion. So
Mhm.
Disney's big answer, and again, there was a separate bit with Bob Iger saying, we're just, we're going to slow everything down at Marvel, and we realize it's too much too soon, and people just don't like it. But what this is being translated into a little bit more directly, as we're looking at the next 3 years plus, is get ready for sequel town. I would say USA, but it's globally. Yeah, they're leaning real hard into, hey, what can we do that people can say, hey, I remember that thing. Let's make a ton of them. So yeah, we're looking at a slate not only this year, but as I said, getting into 25 without a lot of established dates. And then into the TBD land of films like live action Lion King again. Live action, is it live action Moana? I don't know. Moana was never a thing for
Live
me.
action Moana,
Yeah,
yes.
there you go.
A live action Bambi remake, a
Oh
live
boy.
action Hercules remake. The only thing that's not on their I mean, we're gonna go through this list, but the only thing that's not a sequel is going to be a new picture film or Disney animation called Elio. So that's
Yeah,
the
I see that. Yeah.
only original
And
film
that's
on
next
their
year.
list for
That's
the
in
next
yeah,
through
2025.
2026 as far as we know. There
Yeah,
may be other movies that don't have dates, but I mean that's just crazy. That just
I know.
shows that I know Bob Iger says they're going to get into more new properties later on because these are already in the pipeline,
Right.
but this isn't the recipe for like I would say
Bu-
getting
you know,
people in the door, but I'm
Building new brands, because yeah, building franchise.
correct.
Yeah. When you're doing a sequel or another sequel, you're squeezing dollars out of people's aging familiarity with something you've already seen. And live action remakes of Disney films it has always been such a miss for me. The
Well, you're
Aladdin one
not the
was, yeah,
target audience. I'm
I
not the
know
target audience.
that's
Yeah.
fair, but I mean, has one of these been a runaway success? Was Aladdin successful? I'm trying to remember.
They all yeah, that's been when we talk about movies made $1 billion.
Hmm.
It would have been Beauty and the Beast. It
Okay,
was The Lion King, Jungle Book.
yeah,
Um,
But I mean, did
Yeah,
one of them really
those are the ones that were really big. I mean,
really
those were
big?
really
Okay,
big films. Yeah, I believe when Lion King won, Charlie, that was the #1 movie this summer. So, or close
really?
to it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Aladdin made like close to $1 billion too, and it was
That's just
widely
wi
panned.
that's just wild to me because I just but yeah, you're right, you hit the nail on the head. We're not taking kids to those movies, we're not going you and I are not these insane Disney devotees, although, I dropped the news yesterday, my wife is surprising me for my birthday that we are going to Disney after the cruise, and I'm going to Galaxy's Edge. I'm very, very excited about that for March
Oh,
1st.
nice. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, gonna build
Oh,
my own
because you're gonna
saber.
be in that area. That makes a lot of
Yep,
sense. Yeah,
yep.
rope in. Yeah, because
Yeah,
getting there is half
we
the battle, as they would say.
we danced around that for the longest time, but I finally just said because I was talking to my friend Tamara, the same person who convinced me to take my dead car into Kia and found out that I can get a new motor for it. I just took a chance. So anyway, not to get too far afield off of the story, but to talking about Disney. Yeah, they're trotting out Toy Story again.
Yeah,
We
let's just
do.
go through the list.
Yeah,
We'll go
yeah,
through the list
please.
really quickly. So the only good thing I like about this list is, so basically we're starting in 2024, is some of the movies that went direct to Disney Plus are getting another chance in the theater where they never got it
Oh,
before. Because all of these
all right.
movies are very, very good. Soul, that was already done. Great movie.
That was good. I liked it.
You might, oh, you liked it? Okay, great. Yeah. Turning Red, my wife and my son loved
Yep.
it. It's a really good story about coming of age with a little girl. Luca is just a very cute, fun movie about Italy, about two kids.
Yeah.
Really like that. Then we got something weird, and I don't know about this one. Hideo Kojima, Connecting Worlds. He's a video game creator, very famous guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat that Disney's doing this, but I assume this is Disney Plus because it would be weird to put this movie out because it's more of like a documentary. So
Oh,
don't know about
okay.
that. Inside Out 2, coming June
Yep.
14th, 2024. It's
Very
been
enjoyable.
probably 8 years since the last
Yeah.
one. Uh, Moana 2, this was a surprise. We didn't know anything about this film until like last week. It's
Yeah.
coming out November 27th, 2024. So it's one of those TBD movies.
Yeah.
And then we are getting Mufasa, The Lion King, which is the prequel, December
Mhm.
20th, 2024. That, I believe that is live action as well. Yeah. Then we get into more of these. Snow White, the live action remake, which you might have seen
Yeah.
people made fun of the weird looking dwarves, March
Of course.
21st. Elio, June 13th, 2025. That's the only original movie. Moana getting a live action remake, June 27th,
So
2025.
Moana 2 animated, and then they're going back to the well and doing the first one as live action.
That seems rushed.
I don't remember. I mean, it's groundbreaking because I can't remember a time that anybody's really had brass ones that big. Because that just seems like, I mean, if you're Moana crazy for it, you're like, oh my god, I can't get enough of Moana.
The movie's
Okay,
only like 10 years old too. It's not even that long
I
since
don't even.
Moana came out.
I don't even
Great
know that.
film.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even
It's
know
a
that's
great
that
film.
old,
I
but it's pretty
loved it.
close.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have a third film in the Tron series, which blows my
Well,
mind. Yeah.
You missed Zootopia 2. That's coming
Oh,
out in
yeah,
November.
yeah.
I really like Zootopia, so I'm
Me
glad they're
too.
getting
Me
something
too.
else.
Me
Yeah.
too. Yeah. But anyway, I'm scrolling through, so I guess I missed that. But anyway, about Tron. Tron was a hallmark of the 80s of Disney. One of the few things that really
Yeah.
jumped off the screen to me when I was a kid. I was 6 years old when that came out. We got a second film in 2010, which for me didn't really blow my skirt up. I've only watched it the one
I
time.
liked it. Good soundtrack.
And yeah, and this is the original Tron soundtrack was by Journey. Mwah!
Yeah.
An original Journey song on it, Only Solutions. I love it. But Troy Aries is a reboot. All right, and then the Joker is in it, or what's his face? What's that dude's name?
What? So Tron Ares, is it a reboot? Oh, I
No,
didn't know.
Jared Leto's. Well, I'm scrolling down reading the notes. Jared
Okay.
Leto is cast as Ares. So things go great when Jared Leto is the star of a genre film. Yeah, exactly.
Reboot. Interesting. They're rebooting it. Yeah, I guess that would. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. And then
Interesting.
you were talking about Bambi, Hercules. Yeah,
Well,
and then
Frozen 3.
yep.
I mean, that I know the last Frozen did pretty well. It just wasn't as like
Probably.
groundbreaking. Totally get
Oh
it.
yeah.
That movie is like, it was a phenomenon. Frozen 3, I know we're gonna get probably people saying it's woke. Something happened. It's woke. Don't take your children. But I like the second one.
Yeah, I remember liking it too. It had a story that did
Yeah.
some different things with it. I thought that was all right. Yeah, scrolling through. See, yeah, like we said Disney or we said Hercules. We had said Bambi, both in live action, and then a fifth Toy Story. Toy Story is so unbelievably popular, though, I feel like they can still make money with it. So it almost
I
seems
never
like
saw 4. I probably need to see 4. I like 4. I like 3.
wasn't 3 the one with the ending that it's like, oh god, totally destroyed everyone with
I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was going to
yeah.
be because that was when they went away from the Andy, the little boy.
Yeah, yeah,
So we
yeah, yeah,
thought that
yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah.
natural ending, and then 4 brought
Right.
in Key and Peele, and they did some wacky things. And Forky
And
or
for
Spoonies, Forky.
no, it was Forky, and you know what? I'm not sure that I saw it. But Forky had he was the breakout character. He had his own shorts and
Yeah,
all this different stuff. So, animated shorts. Not he wasn't wearing shorts. He wasn't wearing anything. He's a
you don't have
sport.
Forky shorts?
Oh, lost merchandising opportunity. So anyway, that ends that list. And again, I touched a little bit on some comments like Marvel, we're slowing down. We know that we're only getting the one film in 2024, which by the time you listen to this, you will have I'm assuming seen the trailer for
We hope we
Deadpool
get a
3.
trailer for Deadpool
Yeah,
3. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, with just being a few months out. And then with Star Wars, we know that we have the Mandalorian and the Grogu film, which is called Star Wars Mando and the Grogu-Lorian. And then Star Wars has been notorious for swirling projects for the last 2 years. And it's now past 3 years or 4 years, going on 5 since there was a Star Wars film in the theater. We did get news today, Todd. Very exciting 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace. It'll be back in theaters on May 3rd.
Are we getting a special edition? It's about time, right?
Yeah, well, that's kind of how. No, well, it's got to be 30 years for a special edition. Remember, because that's the way it was with the OT. So
who's going to get to choose what they screw up and do a new McClunky and have a Jabba? Who gets to do that?
Well, maybe with the Phantom Menace, they'll take Jar Jar out. What do you think?
Ooh, the Phantom cut. I want to see I want to see the Phantom edit. I don't even know if it exists anymore.
With all of Jar Jar yanked out. So yeah, so that's that. Yeah, with 20th Century Fox or no, it's just called 20th, or is it just called 20th Century
20th
Films
Century.
now?
20th
Yeah,
Century
exactly.
Films, yeah.
So yes, this does mention, obviously we've got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out this year, and an alien Romulus. They're going to have Romulan aliens. Are they going to all have pointed ears now?
Correct. Absolutely.
Wow, good deal. So Disney they're trying to turn the ship and lean real hard into milking what they can milk. Because let's face it, breaking ground is scary and it doesn't always work. So that's what we got. So I don't know, man. I mean, some of these seem interesting, but some of them are not. Some of them, as we have said, are just not for us. You know, we're two damn near 50-year-old guys that are not going to go see Moana 2 because we just don't care.
Or until grandchildren start happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we'll get, Grandpa, take me to see Moana 7.
Exactly. I'll be ready for it. Let me tell you, son.
Let me tell you about Moana 1.
Let me tell you about The Rock. He was the future of the DC universe.
Oh, Grandpa, let's get you into bed.
The stories will tell. The stories will tell.
Oh my God. All right. What do we got next? So, this is a dust up as old as time. You know, this happened in the first several pages of the first issue of Secret Wars, right? Jonathan Hickman puts, thanks pop-up ad. I'll have to just riff from memory. Jonathan Hickman and Sanford Green's Doom launching in May from Marvel. Oh, has he ever had it? There was the supervillain team up back in the 70s, but has Doom ever had his own title? I know Kang had his own limited series that you and I read.
Doom 2099
doesn't count. That's not a real number. It is a one shot though. So yeah, Doom number 1 explore. This is coming out in May. Doom number 1 explores Doom's ultimate quest for power against Galactus. Again, if you read the classic Secret Wars, celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, in the first 5 pages of that, Galactus flies out of the little dome that the Beyonder brought all of them to his planet with and is like, I want to eat the Beyonder's energy or whatever. And then Doom uses rocket jets and flies after him. And the two of them get zapped by the Beyonder, and eventually it leads to Doom absorbing the Beyonder's power, blah, blah, blah. So Galactus sucks Doom rules. There you go. Doom teams up with Valeria Richards. Now, this is the daughter that Reed and Sue had that was in none of the classic comics. And I stopped reading Fantastic Four for 20 something years, and they come back and they have a daughter who's like a year or so younger than Franklin, who is the kid they always had since the 60s. So time's weird. Universe shaking adventure. Hickman and Green collaborate on a storyline celebrating Doom's legacy. So Dr. Doom is the villain that we should have going into this next phase of the MCU, I think. Don't you? I mean, he's like the guy, my opinion.
Charlie, he was Kang all along.
Oh my, but Kang really is everyone.
That's
I mean,
what they're
Kang
gonna do.
is Reed Richards. Yeah. I did hear on the sidebar speaking about Kang that Mr. Majors has had other people come forward against him. So I think he's
Correct.
going to go into hibernation for a while. Yeah, pretty much. He's going to do it. And I wouldn't even compare him to another. I wouldn't say like, oh, maybe he'll have a career renaissance like John Travolta. And John Travolta never beat up any women that I'm aware of. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's true that the industry loves a comeback, but domestic abuse I think a little tougher and for good reason. So anyway,
yeah, I mean, Vic can come back from fighting dogs. I think anybody can come back if they are contrite and they change their story.
It is, yeah. I was going to say I don't know. I have not done a great job keeping up with Fantastic Four comics, but this alone embraces the thing that I love the most is that it's a one shot. I can just read it and enjoy it. It's like an annual. Yeah. It's like an annual. I'm going to talk about an annual when we get into the Geek Easy here that I read that was a little one-hitter story. And yeah, it's perfect. So it's something that you can enjoy. Plus, Jonathan Hickman is not only a tremendous creator, but he shaped the Fantastic Four in the last 20 years. So yeah, this could be worth snagging on the old well, it's not Comixology. It's Comixology Unlimited on Kindle. So is it Kindleology? What is it even called anymore? I don't understand. Well, but anyway, that's where you can find it.
It's on Kindle, but it's just called Comixology within Kindle. It's part of their imprint. Comixology Unlimited is the actual service you pay for. It's not Kindle Limited. So it still exists. It's just doesn't have a standalone app anymore. It's within Kindle.
Right. Amazon eating everything. So anyway,
I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
It does look good. It's probably like a 64-pager one-shot, which is good. We'll tell a complete story. I did like that last year. We got that Fantastic Four hardcover by Alex Ross.
Oh, yeah, I bought that
too. I would like more of these type of stories where you can tell people to read that versus here's 165 issues of something. Enjoy.
Yeah, dig in, no highlights. Of course, 64 pages in this day and age cost $10. But whatever. With the Comixology discount, you save, a nickel. So yes, I love it. Good stuff. Oh, and then finally, Todd, I'll let you take this one away. Sonic is it's kind of a sore spot for me because it's a favorite of my estranged son. So I never saw the last one, but I remember how much I enjoyed the first one. So go ahead, please.
Yeah. Well, so Sonic, there's been 2 big movies. We're getting a 3rd movie, and apparently Shadow the Hedgehog is going to be in that movie. It's been fun. Jim Carrey's actually been announced that he's coming back for the 3rd movie.
I thought you said Shadow of the Hedgehog. I'm like, wow, that sounds like a Batman movie. Shadow of the Hedgehog.
No, Shadow is kind of like he's the dark and brooding part of the Sonic universe. But we are getting this series.
I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, so Sonic is huge with the kids. It's evergreen. People my age and younger grew up with Sonic, so he's kind of just been there for everybody, like the Turtles, Power Rangers, and the movies have been very good. It was really one of the first successful video game movies. Well, one of the characters they introduced in Sonic 2 was Knuckles, Knuckles is in Echidna.
Nichols?
Yes, Nichols. He's voiced by Idris Elba, so it's great. It's a great casting, and he's just a fun character. They are making a 6-episode series of this. It's going to be Roger Rabbit again, inspired, live action with CGI characters. And this one just it's basically Knuckles going on his own, adventuring and taking on battles with a goofy sidekick. And they're having a hell of a time. I saw this trailer. I'm like, this is perfect for what should be. It's goofy. It's fun. I'm all in.
All the adventuring. Well, yeah, that's cool. And again, yeah, it has shades of the original where, Sonic found his familiar, which was James Marsden, and that was his buddy. And so it's the same thing where James Marsden was very straight-laced. He was a cop or a sheriff or something. And this time he finds this dude whose name escapes me, who's basically kind of a schmuck, yet he has a hot wife somehow, I think. He's gonna... Yeah, Adam Pally. I knew he was an Adam. I knew he was an Adam.
The woman you see is actually James Marsden's wife.
Oh, that's
So
why she looks so familiar. So
yeah.
this is probably his brother or his cousin or something.
It's
That
the
to be some
neighbor.
kind
He
of
was
connection.
he was in the second movie. So Adam
Oh,
Pally was in the
there
second
you
movie.
go.
Yeah,
All
yeah. So
right.
he's
All
kind
right.
of like he's the lovable loser. I believe he was like his deputy. I think was James Marsden's deputy.
So he's Barney Fife. So this is
Yeah, pretty
Knuckles,
much.
Knuckles and Barney Fife. All right. Well, this definitely makes a little bit more sense. So that's fun. And this comes out in April, so just a couple months down the road.
Correct. Sidebar: did you see the Paramount Plus commercial for the Super Bowl with Patrick Stewart
I
playing
I heard
football?
of it. He's wearing an old timey football
Oh,
outfit.
it's great. Knuckles is
Yeah,
actually in that too. So
that's
watch the
funny.
commercial. It's
Yes. All
fantastic.
right.
It's
All right.
really, really funny.
Good deal. Awesome. All right. Well, that takes us out of the news, folks. But it is time to get out that Fuber app, that feeble Uber app. We've got to get down to the Geek Easy, talk about things that we're enjoying. But invariably on the radio in the stupid Fuber will be a bunch of dumb advertisements, with the exception of what you're going to hear right now. It's the creme de la creme. Check it out.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/SFU and use our code SFU, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experience I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
Percent of the Geek Easy cover band's playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So a light week for me. I've been playing a lot of video games, so haven't had a lot of time to watch new stuff. But the one thing I did watch new that dropped on Friday was Halo Season 2 episodes
And you
1
watched
and 2.
two of them, because there were two of them dropped as well. So yeah, we watched this as well because again, we've had nothing new. We just finished our final watch through of the collected works of Mr. Danny McBride, and then we're like, all right, let's watch something new, and then this was on. So now, Todd, you and I have had kind of differing schools of thoughts about Halo. You and yours in a lot of ways approach it from the perspective of, hey, the game was, kind of the book was better kind of people, where you're like, this isn't like the game, and I'm like, hey, it's a show and there's a bunch of fun stuff going on. So yeah, so what, now we're getting into the first season was a little bit more derivative, if I'm not mistaken, because it didn't really follow the main crux of what was going on in the game is jumping into what we got right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so the movie, the TV series based off what they call the Silver storyline or universe, kind of like the Kelvin universe for Star Trek. So this is
boy,
our opportunity to say this veers, and it's us telling the story that works best on the screen, so on and so forth. So the first season is out there if you want to watch it. I would say it's a mixed bag. Some things good, some things bad. If you're a huge Halo fan, you'll probably have some things you like about it, other things you don't. Myself, I'm not like a devotee, but I enjoy Halo, and I found some things enjoyable. Other things I'm like, this is really clunky, and it's odd, and you can tell that they didn't have the money.
Is it McClunky? Yeah, probably.
McClunky, yeah. So if you even compared like Last of Us versus this, You can tell they're on different levels. Last of
Yes.
Us is just a good movie or a TV series.
A long
And
movie, yeah, exactly.
Halo is kind of like a sci-fi original. That's the best way I can say it.
The Battlefield Los Angeles.
Kind of like that when sci-fi was making. This is what it feels like. This feels like
Yeah.
a lot of those adaptations you would get, like, oh, it's the Resident Evil film. It's Resident Evil, but we're doing something a little bit different with it.
Yeah.
So season 1 was kind of a prequel, getting you on board with who these main characters were. Season 2 is where it's really supposed to kick off, and we are really going to get moving the plot forward. After watching the first 2 episodes, I don't want to spoil anything. The first episode, the first opening sequence is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it, kind of bland, kind of
It
slow.
does seem to be kind of all over the place. But again, as someone who doesn't know what place it's actually supposed to go to, I don't really have a take on that other than, I'm looking for some kind of action, driving a narrative that's exciting and picking up from pieces of the first season, because it's an ongoing story, correct? I mean, you do see like Natasha McClone's character is in there, and I couldn't remember if she died or not. Or we started up and I'm like, I don't remember, because that was that was on back in 2021, wasn't it? I mean, it seems like it was
2 years ago.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't really remember a lot. And unfortunately, thanks a lot, Paramount, you could have given me last season on and might have caught me up a little bit. Now I don't even remember what the hell happened.
I thought there was a previously on.
Not with what we were watching, but I could be wrong.
Okay. So I thought there was that caught me up really quickly. Yeah. But I mean, this one is kind of, like I said, it's picking up. This one is going to be dealing with, I think we get foreshadowing that more will be happening with the enemy, the Covenant, which is, quite honestly, I think the show works best when there is something driving you forward. When we veer off to like the side characters, that's when I feel like the show just hits why are we with these people? They're so boring. Nothing is happening, and it's like
boring.
And they haven't done a great job of kind of tearing what is the thrust. We've got some drama, obviously, between Chief and maybe the new leader and things like that. And there's some things going on, and there's some character moments, sure, but wow, it just seems like they need to do something with their pacing or do something that better makes it feel like when there's not action, it's still pretty good. When there's character development and things. And I think that's where they're struggling. The rest is still a little clunky, and it doesn't feel like as good as it should be. And I feel like we're not getting more of the action because of money. And that's a shame, because Microsoft is the biggest company in the world. Microsoft is worth $3 trillion. They could throw like a couple coins at their budget.
Just that? Like they'd be just a dude standing there and be like, bing, bing, bing. Oh, what's going on?
A coin to Microsoft is $100 million.
Yeah, here you go. Here's a couple of $1 million coins. Bing, bing, pong. Put a couple more
in 1 hour.
Put a couple more ships in there. So, again, I'm with the first couple of episodes, you're right. It wasn't blowing you away with the rapid velocity of the story and the great transitions with the pacing. But who's to say? I mean, we're getting a little bigger picture of big bad guys, imminent threat, which is all stuff you see from the trailer. So again, not trying to spoil, but we'll hang in there. Again, we don't have a lot of other new shows we're watching right now. So this is kind of what's on the radar on the family calendar, that this comes on Fridays. So we're excited about that. So
yeah, you know what, Charlie, I do hope we get though, is Disney Plus showing a trailer for X-Men 97. Give me that, guys.
I, honest to God, thought it would be on right now, because I remember
did too.
Seeing a scratch date that it was supposed to drop in February. So big ripoff, not impressed. But who knows? Yeah, we shall see. Yeah, they could be.
I think this is
stretching.
I think this is 8 episodes long, maybe 10. So it's weekly drops again.
Yeah,
we get Ghost starting next week too. Some new stuff is coming out. The Super Bowl held everything, or the NFL playoffs held everything back from having new episodes. So next week, everything is coming.
It's all new again. Well, something that did come out that they did actually drop all at once, which is funny because we're talking about a show on Prime Video, which has a really weird way that they release stuff. Like this time last year, that Daisy Jones and the Six was like, we dropped 3 episodes, then we dropped 2 the next week, then 1, then 3, then whatever it is. And then Reacher was the first 2, and then it was once a week and whatever it is. So yesterday, all 8 episodes of Mr. and Mrs. Smith starring Donald Glover, who we love, and Maya Erskine, who I'm like, I looked her up and she seems familiar, but was not really in something where I'm like, that's her. But yeah, they're Mr. and Mrs. Smith. There are a couple of people that apply to join this top secret agency. It was like the answer to an ad out of the paper, because the first portion of the first episode, they're doing a virtual interview where they're just answering questions that come up on the screen. So there's nobody else somebody else on the other end, but not somebody they're looking at. And they get paired together, but the pairing is that they are married. But in this case, I'm trying to remember the original film, which was from the mid-aughts with Pitt and Jolie, and is that how they got together? Yeah.
No, they had no clue they were both spies.
No.
Were competing
In real life.
Oh, in real life, that's where they had
a
entendre on set.
Yes, indeed. So anyway, this film was not that, because they were paired, but they were strangers who are now married, and yes, they're secret agents, and they get an assignment. They go off and do it, and so they changed the premise of this quite a bit. April, they're an hour-long episode, so I think we started yesterday and we finished it up at lunchtime today, because we're just watching it. We didn't have anything else to do. It's kind of a great, we had nice weather this week, but today it's kind of gray, so we're just hanging in. And watched it through. I found it enjoyable. Absolutely. It's not super gruesome. There's, the occasional headshot and blood splatter, but it's not Reacher, where, it's just nothing but him kicking the shit out of people. But there are elements of the original film. There are no characters or actors that like, hey, I'm making a cameo in it that I see that I'm aware of. But there are elements from that original film that kind of bleed their way into this film as well, or this series as well. But in a lot of ways, it's very original. It's cool. It's cool. And I'm talking like you. It's cool, man.
Cool.
It's cool. I enjoy it very much. And again, it's on Prime Video. All episodes now streaming, and most likely you have Prime anyway. So I would recommend checking it out.
So one question.
Yeah.
So I'm of two minds about Donald Glover.
Okay.
I adored him on Community, but a lot of things I've seen him since in his persona, as
Childish Gambino.
Sometimes he comes off as very aloof, kind of like, I'm too cool for school. I kind of sometimes I feel like I don't feel like he is like. Sometimes I feel like he's just not all in it. It's like I'm too cool to be playing this character.
Right.
Like how does he come off? Does he feel like he's do you feel like he's like all in? He's like not trying to put on airs.
I didn't find his character to be particularly shticky, if that's what you mean. Like, hey, like exactly. I'm too good for this, and I'm the superstar. I thought he played well off getting my Erskine, which again, I feel like I should know her for something, and I had to look her up, and I was like, I don't know you from anything. So the real answer is, I think he did fine. I think they did. Yeah, I think they did together. But look at him like him as Lando in the Han Solo movie. Yeah, too cool for school. Totally agree.
I totally get it as Lando, but it's just like sometimes his persona comes off like. I like the Troy because he felt sincere. He felt like very passionate and lovely and showing many ultimate tears. And I know I've never seen Atlanta, but when I've seen of him in there, he just does once again seems like he's too cool.
Yeah.
It's like, is this a persona or is this who you really are? And fun fact, Phoebe Bridgers, is that who it is, was originally supposed to be in this.
Oh, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Oh, that would have really been something. Yeah. That's too bad.
Yeah.
I think that would have been, and again, because Maya Erskine is the one who I thought played very aloof. But that was the nature of her character. Okay. But again, I'm not really comparing her to anything because I don't really know her as a character. So anyway, and then secondly, real quick, I had mentioned this in the last segment that I read a standalone annual this week, and damn you, the folks at Screen Rant or Trek Movie or one of them that snagged me for this. But one of the ongoing Star Trek comic series, which I gave up on, I had a subscription, and I was not reading them. They just kept piling up, and I was like, I'm going to cut it off, and then someday, somewhere, maybe I'll pick it up again. But they have several ongoing series, and one of them is just called Star Trek Defiant, obviously named after the ship that we know from DS9. And it was weird that it had an annual because I figured, if they would just call it a Star Trek annual. But what caught my attention about this one is it was centered around the Romulan character of Sela, who is the daughter of Tashiar, who's a character from TNG early on, that through some wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, Tashiar ended up in the past and ended up fathering a half Romulan child who grew up to be a Romulan officer who, in this parlance, which is we're now set 10, 15 years after TNG, she is a disgraced character. She goes back in time to try to right the wrong and fix the thing that screwed up her career, and ends up running into our universe's version of her mother right before the beginning of Star Trek The Next Generation. And I thought it was a cool story because it was very fish out of water. They did a pretty good job incorporating, because Picard had a one-line throwaway of how he and Tashiar met prior to TNG, and they built that into the story. And it was pretty cool. So I enjoyed that. And again, it doesn't make me be like, oh man, I got to jump back and get caught up on all these stories. Todd and I both were like, we're doing a spinner rec. We're like, man, we got to get this in. And we often read it at the last minute because we're busy people. And then, we're over on Holocron, which comes out the day after you probably listening to this. We're doing our first comic arc there, which I picked. Mark and myself and a guest are talking about the first arc of 2015's Darth Vader comic, which introduces Dr. Aphra. But anyway, all this reading and stuff, sometimes it's tough to cram it in. But that's why I've become, to try to bring this back to the beginning, that's why I'm a big fan of your little one-off stories. Like, hey, you know what? I didn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting because I knew this character and I knew their backstory, and I could figure out from cues kind of what's happened to them. But then you throw it into elements in this past story that tie right in with something I'm familiar with TNG, and I genuinely enjoyed it. And again, I got that on Kindle Mixology, or whatever the hell you want to call it, on your Kindle, which you can. It's weird. You're still buying those off of Amazon because you can't get them anywhere else. You can't buy them off the app. You actually have to go to the website to buy them and blah, blah. So you know what? I don't know. There's got to be a better way. Comixology, I loved it when it was a standalone, site, or standalone app. I thought it was easier to navigate, but whatever. Now I'm going to start sounding like I remember when bread was a nickel kind of guy, so I'm not going to do that. Man, I don't like it. Yeah. So I'd recommend, if you're a Trekker, I would recommend giving that one a stab, because again, it's a one-off story with some familiar elements of a couple of characters that you probably already know. He'd be in good shape. So anyway, that wraps us up from the Geek Easy. Time to dash out on this check yet again. Once more, I cannot understand why they keep letting us in here, but I've got my phone in my hand with the Air Qantas app. Got to get us to the land down under. Tina and Hologram Tina and the mutants are waiting for us to take along. We're taking along a guest this week, Todd. We're stopping in LA. We're picking up Madam Webb, and we're taking her with us because this week's Thunderdome is all about Madam Webb. Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. The mutants been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained, and this week we're doing a primer. So basically, all about Madam Webb before the movie is released.
Just one coat of paint. Here, hold on. I'm almost done. There we go. Okay.
Correct. So, so Madam Webb, this is going to be just solely on her first, one of her first three, or around the first three appearances with an Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, she obviously was in the animated series.
Yeah, there was a middle one that we didn't read, but I thought these three that I picked out were the most important because it was her first appearance, and then it was a pivotal two-parter that happened just 10 or so, actually 20 issues later. In the good old Amazing Spider-Man, written by in 1980. Now, her first appearance, as we see here in the one of our source articles, was in Amazing Spider-Man number 210 in November of 1980. Created by Denny O'Neil, very famous comic creator, and John Romita Jr. And I don't know if you noticed this, you read the comics the same as I did on Marvel Unlimited. I really couldn't tell because we read issue 210, 229 and 230, and the 229 and 230 is the very famous Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut, which we'll get into in a moment. I thought that the transfer of the art from whatever the source was over to this was so blocky, I couldn't even tell it was John's art. Because I've read it, I've owned the original issues, and I also have the black and white Marvel Essentials printed. But looking at it in on the screen on my iPad on Marvel Unlimited, I was really like, wow, this is really kind of nasty. But anyway.
Oh, really? It looked, and quite honestly, to me, it didn't look at all like John Romita Jr. because his style now is so
Yeah.
unique. This looks like he was just aping the
Yeah.
style of the times. Yeah.
It's possible, but it's not. He became the regular artist on ASM subsequently, not even really that long, and then his style was very consistent with what even you see now, which again, he's one of my favorites, and I was a huge fan of his dad's stuff, who was, to me, the quintessential Amazing Spider-Man artist was John Romita Sr. But anyway, too deep into the woods on this one. So Madam Webb, Cassandra Webb, was, as Todd pointed out, born in Salem, Oregon. Didn't know that. She's paralyzed, blind, telepathic, clairvoyant, and a precognitive mutant. So she was born with these abilities. So she worked as a professional medium. But in the first story that we read, one of Peter's various in-between girlfriends, who was this bookish girl named Deborah Whitman, who was, anyway, when he was a student, she has an ad, and she's going to meet Madam Webb to get, who's a medium, who's going to not tell her fortune or whatever it is a medium does. I thought a medium was someone who channeled the dead or something like that. So I guess I'm
A medium typically does speak to the spirits,
Right.
versus a clairvoyant who can read tarot cards to determine your future. Yeah.
Right. So that seemed a little muddled in this first issue, but the first part of it had that issue 210 had to do with a kidnapping and a fake out for the paper that Peter had been working for at that time, because he had quit working for JJ and he was working for the Daily Globe, which was the fourth largest newspaper in New York.
I was going to say the fourth largest, which I thought was
Yeah.
such a random thing. I mean, because the
Right.
New York Times, we can't mention them, or
No. Well,
real publications.
The Daily Bugle, as mentioned in one of the subsequent other issues we read, is number one. So in this universe, perhaps
They beat out the Times. They beat out the New York Times and New York Post.
They did. Well, those are obviously 2 and 3. But anyway, yeah. Madam Webb, even though Peter initially dismisses Madam Webb without having met her as a fraud, he's drawn back to her through the course of this mystery, and she uses his abilities to help her rescue a woman and uncover this plot, and then which essentially puts
publisher, the owner of the actual
right.
newspaper, who
exactly. Yeah, and he puts that paper out of business, which means Peter's out of a job. But I did love at the end of 210 when Madam Webb calls him, because she knew his identity and apparently was able to read the phone book, and called him at I loved his awesome Chelsea Street apartment that he had from basically the 70s till when he married Mary Jane in the late 80s. It was great. 1-bedroom apartment with a tiny kitchen and a tiny bathroom. Very, very, and he was able to afford it, and it was in Chelsea, or the Soho area, if you're at all familiar with New York City, which an apartment of that size now will cost you $6,500 a month, and you have 9 roommates. They're all stacked like cordwood. But back in the 70s, and because it was a comic book, he could live there by himself.
Yeah, this story was so like, it almost like this was a story that would have been in that Spider-Man TV series live action, because it was just
Hammond? Yeah.
So boring. I mean, kind of a really boring story, taking on some thugs. And I laughed because
no supervillain.
At the end of the story, it was a guy who kind of looked like he was a knockoff Kingpin, and
right, but he had hair. Yeah,
and he wants to kill the woman to get the money of the paper, but he sets the whole damn place on fire to kill her. And was that also the newspaper, or just her place? I could not figure that out.
It must have just been her place, because why would he burn down the paper if he wanted to own the paper?
Burn down the whole damn place?
Because he was just, even the Kingpin wouldn't do that. That's a very, very blunt instrument kind of approach. I wouldn't, it's just not very smart. So, but anyway, that wraps up, and Peter obviously goes back to work for J. Jonah Jameson, because yes, when Madam Webb calls him, she says there is the cure to your financial woes is in your future, and then you see JJ.
Yeah, she was doing a fortune cookie at that time.
Exactly. So JJ was trying to call him to hire him to be a photographer again. So anyway, we jump forward a handful of issues to ASM 229, where we have Black Tom and the Juggernaut sailing into New York Harbor, because they're a pair from the X-Men. Black Tom, he's a mutant, bad mutant, whose power is, I think, absorption and projection, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what he does? He has a cane.
He can.
I think
his ability with wood.
He's on my figure shelf. I can see, because I have the jug. Yeah. I have him and the Juggernaut on my figure shelf. So yeah,
He's Irish, so and the name is
Yeah.
not about his physical appearance.
Yes, he's which was a gag in Deadpool 2 when Deadpool was in the
So
prison. Black Tom.
his abilities is he can manipulate and bond with force energy through plants. So that's why he has the wood stick.
Plants. I'm like, he's not carrying around a tree or something, but there you go. But anyway, and then the Juggernaut, thanks to he has now the Juggernaut, was he not a mutant, or was he just imbued with the powers of the Ruby Sidorak? Yeah,
He's a step brother of Charles Xavier, and he was just a normal dude, and he did get the gem of Sidorak, which basically imbued with him powers of the being unstoppable.
Right.
He is the unstoppable Juggernaut.
Yeah, so he's like the Hulk, but he wears this crazy armor, and he in particular wears a helmet that protects him from psionic attacks, which is, of course, how Charles would shut him down if he wasn't wearing it. But anyway, Black Tom and the Juggernaut are going into New York because Black Tom has the same newspaper clipping that Peter had in issue 210, that they're going to snag Madam Webb and make her a part of their organization, which is there's an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation that the Ferengi were going to kidnap Loxana Troy's mother, for the exact same reason. We'll kidnap her and then she'll be a part of our gang and we can use her abilities to help us, make more money. It was the exact same thing. So the Juggernaut's like, I'll go get her. And he just jumps off the boat, walks along the bottom of New York Harbor, and he's going to go to Madam Webb's apartment and just kidnap her, and they're going to conscript her and run away. Well, Madam Webb, knows this is coming. She has a nightmare about it, and she psionically asks Peter for help. And then you get 2 issues of Peter trying to stop the Juggernaut by any means necessary. He's using all his webbing, which is one of the strongest substances on Earth, to try to stop him, and it doesn't work. He's throwing girders at him. He's, dumping, he takes him into a construction site, and they're knocking down pieces of building and just nothing is going to slow him down. The police are trying to shoot bombs at him and stuff, and that's not working out. And in the final analysis, he does get him into another construction site. He drives a gas truck into him, which explodes. But much like the scene out of the first Terminator, he just walks out of there. He's pissed off now, but he's fine. And Peter's trying to really finally get him, and they're wrestling, and Peter jumps on top of him. He's trying to tear the helmet off because he figured that's how he can get him. But through all this distraction, the Juggernaut walks into a pile of wet cement, and much like the old adage about quicksand, he sinks into this 40-foot pool of cement, and it's enough to finally stop him cold. But unfortunately, the damage was done because in the time in between, he did get to Madam Webb's apartment and took her out of this life support chair, the only thing keeping her alive, and she goes into a coma. And because of that, you catch up with her at the end of the issue 230, and she has amnesia, so she doesn't remember anything about who she was, or she doesn't remember Peter's identity. So that part of it is solved, but she's laid up, and the issue comes to an end, and Black Tom is watching through his scope to the construction site, which is right on the river, and Juggernaut doesn't come out. He's obviously down. I mean, eventually I'm sure he pops out of there eventually, but it does not happen at the end of this episode, so that it appears. And then if you look at subsequently, if you jump forward several issues, Peter does in EASM 239, Peter does visit Madam Webb in the hospital, and she still doesn't remember him. So his secret is safe, which of course in this day and age doesn't matter because everybody knows he's Spider-Man, it seems, or it comes and goes. But anyway, back then, knowing his secret identity was a big deal.
Wow.
Yes, it was quite a ride. But at least these 2 issues had a supervillain for Peter to fight, and there were some stakes, and you couldn't stop him. And I mean, that's one of the more interesting issues of Amazing Spider-Man at that time.
Yeah. Some observations about this, because, of course, Spidey realizes he can't stop him. So he decides, hey, who else can I? So he tries to call the Fantastic Four, the X-Men. Right. Nobody's
Avengers.
Home. There's a lot of captions like, this says, editor notes, see blah, 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 see X-Men, blah, blah, blah. He goes to Doctor Strange, the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Oh, he talks to Wong.
Oops.
Fills him in.
Oops, he's not here either. I can't help you.
I know.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, see ya. Yeah, what are the odds that the three big super teams in all of Marvel would be out? They didn't call the Eternals.
Didn't call Heroes for Hire. Didn't call the
Well,
Defenders. Didn't
they
call
weren't. Yeah, could have called the Defenders. Yeah, could have called the Defenders. Yeah,
the
Champions Los
Champions.
Angeles.
I don't
Yeah, they were
know.
broke up by.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the fact that everywhere Spidey went, Madam Web knew the phone number to reach him.
Yeah, yeah. He jumped into the sanctorum, and Madam Web was like, he rang, and then Peter just grabbed the phone. He's like, "It's for me." Okay. But yeah, it was a real bitch with that
Apparently,
big
she's got a
apparatus.
really good phone book that she knows everybody's phone number.
She must have had the
Everybody's.
internet before she had Google before there was Google. It was Madam Web's Google. That's how she could have made her money. So,
Exactly.
but
Google
anyway,
before Google. Yeah.
but this was Madam Web before it kind of broke out, and we find out that she's interrelated to various other Spider-Woman characters. It says here in this Wikipedia article that she was the grandmother to the fourth Spider-Woman, Charlotte Witter, which is not a character I'm aware of, but she participated in an arcane ritual known as the Gathering of the Five, which was what ended the first volume of The Amazing Spider-Man in 1999, I think. So I remember that because it was a multi-part story, Norman Osborn, blah, blah, blah. So that's what actually ended the volume one of all of the heritage titles at the time. Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man all ended at that time. But she gained immortality. Then she became a mentor to the third Spider-Woman, Maddie Franklin, whose name I recognize, so they kind of dialed it backwards. And she pops up a little bit here, a little bit there, but eventually the hands turn to Julia Carpenter, who was the Spider-Woman who we met through Secret Wars. She had the original black costume, was a member of the West Coast Avengers for a little while, and then she becomes Madam Web, and I think that's covered in this top 10 that we're looking at here. And I think that's the current incarnation of the character. And I thought that's where they were going with the movie, but I think Julia Carpenter is going to be the vivacious Sydney Sweeney. That's her character, because in all of the photos you've seen, she's wearing that exact outfit. So yes, but yes,
this is so weird. I'm reading in the Wikipedia entry. I'm reading like the last paragraph. It's kind of crazy. It says,
the clones conspiracy, the dead no more.
Well, before dying from clone degeneration, Madam Web tells Julia to save Prowler. I'm like, and that's when she died.
Okay. Well, thanks. Yes, exactly. I remember the clones conspiracy. That was actually a decent storyline that happened 5 or 6 years ago. And I've got a trade paperback that's got all those. So I actually enjoyed that, but for some reason was not really remembering her role in it, because again, it was one of those big crossovers that every character who had ever died in all of Spider-Man was cloned. And the main person was Ben Reilly, who is original Spider-Man clone, posing as the Jackal, who was the guy who first cloned Spider-Man, who was a villain back in the 70s. Yeah, it was a whole thing.
I hope in the new Ultimate Spider-Man book that's coming out, Madam Web returns in all of her senior glory.
That would be great. But anyway, yeah, that's a lot of Madam Web so far. I will be real interested, particularly after reading these first issues and then going over some of this history, that when you and I resume after both seeing the Madam Web film, which comes out next week, if you're going to be able to pick up on the Easter eggs and stuff, and if any of that should work out. So this is the first superhero film of the year, I think. And part of me is really looking forward to it. The other part of me is absolutely terrified, because none of these Spumco movies have been good, at least in my opinion. I mean, we started with Venom, which you said you enjoyed, but the second one was dreadful. Morbius was horrible. Wasn't there another one?
Nope, that's it. But we are getting Craven.
And then we're getting Craven.
And we're getting two,
which with the Craven
3 movies this year.
Absolutely dreadful. So yeah. Oh, and we're getting a third Venom movie, which I'm not at all looking forward to. So yeah, Todd, any other thoughts about Madam Web before we wrap it up?
From humble beginnings, who knew that she would be where she is today? You know what? She doesn't get anything from these comics. Hopefully she's got a good deal with the movie. But you know what, Madam Webb?
We hope so.
We would be nowhere without you. 461 episodes later,
You better believe
you're
it.
still our gal pal and our senior news correspondent.
And we're here to support you, and we're glad that on company money we could fly you with us to Australia so that you could stand in front of a hologram and a bunch of weird mutants and you could tell your story. So anyway, look forward to our breakdown, our super spoiler cast of Madam Webb on our next episode, potentially with a guest. We're trying to find somebody to join us.
It's going to be hard to convince someone to join us for this fun.
Well, yes, the two people I asked, one was not going to be seeing it, and the other one was too busy during next weekend. So it might just be us. But you know what?
Suddenly came up.
Yes, we will tackle it with the same vim and vigor that we tackle everything on this program. So anyway, with that, that is the end of the show. So friends, as always, thank you for joining us. Todd, where do people find you out there?
They can find me on the threads at Toxtra, at Secret Friends Unite. Good news, Threads now added GIFs, so it's almost a complete service now.
We're getting there. Very exciting. I am also over on Threads and Instagram, C3 Carpenter, spell it out. I'm also on, of course, our Secret Friends Discord and the Discord of the USS Grand Petoskey, which is the chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club that my wife and I run right here in West Michigan. I'm privileged enough to head up Region 13 for SFI, which is Michigan and Eastern Canada. If you're a Trekker within the sound of my voice and would like to meet Trekkers in your area, please visit sfi.org, the USS Grand Petoskey website, and drop me a note, and I'd be happy to help you out. Get some trekking back in your life. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a trek truck.
The web you weave in hopes to deceive. Thank you, Madam Webb.
Oh, yes.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite.